want to thank everybody that is here joining us today. We're excited that we have Sarah Ivy from DEQ, right?
Yeah.
Oklahoma DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality. Okay, and so she's also a part of OKRA, as well as Ellen Bussert.
Come on,
Sorry,
Jared.
Bussert. I mean, I've known him for 5 years now, but
We're on a first name basis, so he's never had.
yeah, exactly. And so excited to have both of them. They're collectively representing OKRA, which you see, the Oklahoma Recycling Association. My Deputy Secretary, Kara Bursch, is part of OKRA as well. And we do a lot with them. And so when we thought about doing this class, we reached out and they were gracious to come in and teach us a little bit about recycling. So take it away, Sarah.
Awesome. Thank you. So as Jared mentioned, I'm Sarah Ivy. I work for the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality, which if you're not familiar, we're kind of like the state version of EPA. We do a lot of regulatory, air quality, solid waste, and water quality. So I luckily don't have to do the regulatory part of the job. I get to do outreach much like this and work with schools and kids. So if you guys know of any schools or kids that need a program like this, I'm happy to come. Just grab my card and let me know. But as another thing that Jared mentioned, I'm representing OKRA today, so the Oklahoma Recycling Association. And this is part of our Lunch and Learn series that we like to do to keep people informed of recycling in Oklahoma. So when Kelly invited us, she said she kind of wanted to do a recycling 101, and I think that any good recycling 101 presentation takes it back a little further and talks about waste in general. So I'm going to take you through some waste talk, and so we'll talk trash for a little while, and then we will talk recycling. So our waste problem, according to EPA, and the last time they got the numbers in 2018, the Americans throw away 292.4 million pounds of trash a year. So it's like an astronomical amount, almost 5 pounds per person per day. And you're probably thinking, well, I don't throw away 5 pounds a day. But if you think about all the things, our yard waste and other things that are bigger things throughout the year, it kind of averages out that way. And a lot of it doesn't need to end up in landfills. So that's where it goes, but it doesn't have to. And so we have a say in where that stuff goes. It's all about choices. So what is trash? So like literally Kelly's eating this hummus container right now. She's got her string cheese. And so this was a valuable item a few minutes ago because it was safely keeping that cheese contained and germ-free, right, before she ate it. But now that she's done with it, it's a wrapper and it's trash. So it goes from something valuable to something invaluable very quickly. And all we want to do is find a solution to get rid of it. And in Oklahoma, where does most of our trash end up? Landfills, right? So here's a picture of some landfills, including the Ada landfill. So all those trash trucks that are zooming by day in and day out, they're picking up all our trash and most likely taking it to the nearest landfill. So a landfill, unlike a dump, is a very complex system. So when we first started generating trash and deciding that we wanted to throw it away a long time ago, dumps were created just by people saying, hey, this is where we're going to get rid of stuff over here. It would just literally get thrown on the ground. You guys have probably seen an illegal dump in your lifetime, and so they still happen. But a landfill is different. So a landfill is a place where we have designed it to take our trash. We want it to be the final resting place of that trash. So it's a complicated system because we don't want to pollute the groundwater. We don't want to pollute the soil around the landfill. So essentially we're making a tomb for that trash. So they do a really, in Oklahoma, it's pretty easy, but a clay layer underneath, because as you know, clay is less permeable to water. They do a really thick liner. When I'm talking to kids, I tell them, think about like a backyard swimming pool, that really thick liner that's keeping all that water in, right? Obviously, this is even higher grade than that, and obviously can withstand all of the trash soup that gets put in the landfill and generated eventually. They also have what they call a leachate system, so all of that trash soup that is generated in the landfill can filter out and be monitored. And then every day after those trash trucks are putting that trash in, they put what they call daily cover on. And daily cover is really what's kind of entombing that trash in the landfill. So what are some reasons you think they might cover it every day? Any ideas? Smell, right? As you know, trash, especially if it's getting picked up once a week or whatever, in the summer especially, man, that can smell pretty bad. So smell, 100%. Any other ideas while we cover it? Animals, yes. We want to keep all the critters out. Those are raccoons and other things that are very curious about our trash. We want to distract them from that. Anything else?
Wind.
Yes, wind. So in Oklahoma, the wind is always sweeping down the plain. And a lot of those things in our trash is light, paper and plastics and even empty cans. And that can all get blown away. You've probably seen a trash truck where things have blown out, or the back of people's pickup truck, right? Where trash is easily airborne. And so for all of those reasons, that's why we put daily cover. And so unlike in nature, when things can break down, we're not giving them the same elements, right? So we're putting it underground, we're covering it up so it's not getting light like it does in nature. They're compacting all that trash, so it's not having the air circulate through like it does in nature. And of course it's not having the oxygen as well. And then the water is not the same in the landfill, right? If it rains, yes, water gets in, there might be some water coming in with the trash from various sources, but just not the same as nature. So when that trash goes to the landfill, it's probably going to be there for a long time, not breaking down in the same way that it does in nature, staying for a long, long time. So a landfill, in fact, when you build a landfill, you have to have a plan to monitor that landfill even after it's closed, right? To make sure it's fine. All right, so what's going into our landfills? Well, again, this was the data taken from EPA in 2018. But there's a lot of different things going in there. As you can see, paper, glass, metals, plastic, that's at almost 50%. And yard trimmings, food, wood, that's another big percentage. And then kind of the others. So that's a lot of things going into our landfill that again, maybe could go other places. Some of that trash could be used again. So a lot of people have talked about that we need to reframe the waste hierarchy, that we need to retrain ourselves, that it doesn't need to go to the landfill first. There are lots of steps that we can do before the landfill. So we're going to go through all of these one by one. So rethink. So this starts out with all the decisions we make throughout the day. So we can think about changing our paradigm from the buy and toss. So like the cheese and the individual wrappers. Sorry, Kelly. I know how it goes. I have kids and it's easy to throw in lunchbox things in individual wrappers. But you could buy a big block of cheese, right, and cut off pieces and put that in a container and reuse the containers. So starting with rethinking our habits. So buying in bulk instead of single serving packaging. And we're using those single-use items like Jared. I know we were talking before about the single-use cup versus using a reusable cup. Refuse. So this is another can be, a lot of these kind of can be similar, but refusing to use the single-use cup by bringing your own. I pretty much always refuse bottled water if I can get away from it because number one, I know where the water is coming from if it's coming out of my tap. I know that it has to be highly regulated because I work at DEQ and all of the water in the state has to come to us with samples very frequently, especially depending on population, so that your water is being tested a lot. So if it's coming out of that tap, somebody has put their stamp of approval on it. Bottled water, not necessarily. And yeah, so refusing the bags at the store, right? No, I don't need a bag today, or no, I brought my own bag. Bringing your own utensils. Speaking of, we have some over there, so if you would like some reusable utensils, we hope you will grab those. And then reducing. So the thing about reducing is that really you're trying to avoid trash from the start. So one of the easiest ways is, do I really need this, right? A lot of times we're just at the store, we grab it because it looks exciting, but do we really need it? So again, this is reducing the single service packaging, doing meal planning so that you're not wasting as much food, because you've got a plan in place, you know you're gonna eat that lettuce by the end of the week. Using secondhand or gently used items. So all of these reduced decisions can really impact our waste. So reuse is another simple, again, going on with the same message. So we've talked a lot about bring your own bottle, bring your own bag, but you guys have lots of really cool resources here in Ada. So the Reuse Center is one of them, right? So that's a great option. Lots of, nationally, we've had a lot of trends to use reusable water bottles, bags, straws, coffee pods for the Keurig, all of that kind of stuff. So it's kind of becoming more and more popular as we find ways to reuse items. Repair is often one that people forget in the waste cycle. We're so used to, oh, well, this is broken and I'll just get a new one. And sometimes that's a cheaper option, right, than just repairing it. But sometimes it's a quick and easy fix. Sew that button back on or tinker with that alarm clock and see if you can't get it to work. Sometimes there will be fix-it fairs that people have done. I know in Oklahoma City a couple times they've done something like that. So you bring your items and there's people there with the expertise and the know-how. But if you are wondering how to fix something, there's probably a YouTube video or 10 or 20 to show you how to do it. So we're connected these days, and so we have a lot more options on repairing. Rot, so this is the R word for composting, just fits with the R's, But composting is a great solution. So as I mentioned, a lot of what's going to the landfill is organic material. So either food waste, either because we didn't finish our plates, or we have those banana peels that I don't eat the banana peel. Most people don't, I don't think. So even when we are eating the food, we do still have food waste. Yard trimming, so mowing the grass or breaking up those leaves or all those things, all of those end up in the landfill. But composting is a really great alternative. I know Kelly has a worm bin. She'd probably be happy to share information if anybody's interested in vermicomposting, which is letting worms break down your food for you. But a compost pile can be really, really simple. So there's lots of different ways. There's tumblers. You can literally just find a spot in your property and start throwing things in it. You can have bins where you separate the compost and you turn it and you kind of rotate the stages of the compost. So composting is really easy. There is some information about composting over there if you're curious. And again, composting, this is how nature breaks down trash, right? This is what was happening before humans started manufacturing things that we needed to throw away. So air and water are two of the key components of composting. And then you need a balance of green and brown materials. So typically 2 parts brown to 1 part green. And so greens are going to be your fresh fruits and vegetables, those new grass clippings, weeds, that kind of stuff. Your browns are going to be your dried, so shredded paper, coffee grounds, leaves, small sticks and branches, those types of things. And so you have a good mixture of that, and then you can have successful composting. Yes, sir?
Just be careful not to use grass clippings where you spray weed killer.
Yes, and same, yeah, if you're picking weeds or anything, especially if you're doing backyard composting, if you're putting weeds in your compost, those seeds may not die out completely because it doesn't really get as hot as like commercial composting. And so you might inevitably spread those seeds somewhere where you don't want them. So just be mindful. Yeah. So another reason to compost is that that methane in landfills is one of the biggest contributors to methane in the United States. It's actually the third highest source of methane. And so when all of that organic material goes to the landfill, if that landfill is not capturing that methane, then it's getting released as another greenhouse gas. Now, some of the landfill guys that we talked to are like, no, we want your organics to come to the landfill because we count on that landfill gas. I get that. So if it's a landfill that is generating or using that gas for a purpose, some landfills create enough power to power homes. There's one in El Reno that powers a brick plant. There's all kinds of uses for that. But when it's not being used, it's being released into the environment. So another reason to reduce those organics. And so lastly on that list was recycle, right? Well, we're the Oklahoma Recycling Association. Why are we talking about recycling as the last resort? Well, really, recycling, although it's great, and we tell our kids we should recycle, and we all believe in recycling, it really should be the last step, right? We want to try to reduce our waste as much as we can through those other methods before we get to recycling. Because recycling is a reuse, but it still is requiring the material to go through a manufacturing process again, right? There's lots of transportation involved, a lot of times there's lots of energy involved, not as much as getting those items from their source originally, but it's still not the greatest environmental choice, but still better than going to the landfill, that's for sure. So now we're at the recycling 101 part. So kind of talking about here in Ada, but also in general. So if you live here in the city, you guys know you have curbside recycling. And there are rules. Everybody has different rules for what their community accepts. And I urge you to check. If you have questions about any items that go in your recycling, just check with your program. And they will be happy to tell you all the things that they want and all the things that they don't want. There's also drop-off centers and the recycling center and the drop-off locations. So if you have, I don't know, every once in a while around Christmas, you start getting a ton of Amazon boxes. Those aren't going to fit in that recycle bin without blowing away. So you can do the drop-off or the recycle center to dispose of those boxes. So we typically say there are 4 main materials that can be recycled. Plastic. So plastic is a great material, right? We have quite a few plastic containers here in the room. It serves a great purpose. It's fairly cheap. It's pretty light, so we can transport it pretty easily. It's malleable. Lots of benefits to plastic, but as we all know, it's an oil product, and so it has to get pumped out of the ground from somewhere, added with other things to make these plastic products that we have. So how do you know if an item you have is recyclable if it's plastic? So has everybody seen the little recycle triangle and the numbers inside of them, right? So that is telling you what resin, what that plastic is made of. So here in Ada, you guys accept number 1 and 2 plastic. Luckily, those are the most common anymore. So water bottles, soda bottles, any of the clear see-through containers are often number 1s. Sometimes they're number 5s, so you do need to double check. And then number 2s, I'll show you guys on this slide, are more your opaques. So your milk jugs, your laundry detergent, shampoo bottles, coffee cans of coffee, a lot of cleaning products, those are all number 2s. So going back to this, so the other numbers, 3 through 7, you guys don't accept, with the exception of 6, which in most communities I say you don't want to talk about that. It's like the dirty word, but styrofoam. And you guys are lucky enough with DART here in Ada that you can recycle a lot of your styrofoam. So that's number 6. Number 5 is starting to get popularity. So the problem with recycling is it's all about markets, right? If they're going to take the time to collect your item, it needs to be able to go somewhere, be sold, and someone turn it into something new. Otherwise, they're literally just collecting trash. And so the market for number 5s has not been stable enough that everybody wants to collect it on like an ongoing basis. So a lot of communities will go back and forth on 5s. So 1s and 2s have been reliable for a long time. Number 4s is often your plastic films, so like Walmart sacks and things like that, and we'll talk about that. But that doesn't go in your curbside recycling. And then everything that's kind of mixed together, they put in other. So if it has 2 types of plastics or just a little bit different, then it gets an other label. Lunchables often have a number 7. I deal a lot with kids, so we talk about Lunchables a lot. But yeah, so number 7s are other. All right, we went through this, the number 1s and 2s, and we talked about DART, so the styrofoam recycling. I know you guys accept it here in the building and throughout the nation. Just clean and dry is all they ask. So if it's packaging styrofoam, obviously that's going to be pretty clean. But if you use a Sonic cup or something, rinse it out, and then it's good to go. So glass is another one of the big 4 that is often recycled. So it's made from sand and limestone and soda ash. It's a great product. It can be recycled over and over and over again. The downside to glass, it's very heavy. It's not very valuable in the recycling industry. So I know right now you guys are not accepting glass, but I hear from Kelly that might be changing in the near future. And in fact, you guys are doing a glass collection drive. Is that next week? Next week.
Earth Week.
Earth Week.
Week after
2 weeks. Glass collection. So if you've been saving those glass bottles and jars, you'll be able to recycle them then. So glass is a great product. It doesn't have any of the leaching kind of things that we hear from plastic, but it is heavy. So. All right, then paper, paperboard, and cardboard. This is where the recycling guys, they love this stuff, especially cardboard, corrugated cardboard. So that shipping box from Amazon or that refrigerator box, I mean, they want that stuff. They're going to use that over and over. We all know that this stuff comes from trees. So we have to grow the trees before we can use it. So it is a renewable resource, but also limited to what we can grow. So any kind of paper is pretty much acceptable in paper recycling. So whether it's junk mail, magazines, office paper, your kids' homework, like whatever it is, you can throw it in your paper bin. Shredded, I know, sometimes will cause headaches for people. You guys have shredding bins here in the office?
some people do. We mainly have a company come, just take it whole and
Yeah.
they shred it.
Okay, good. Yeah, that happens a lot. If you have shredded paper at home, I know what I do in my curbside bin is I'll put that shredded paper into a brown paper sack and then I'll staple it closed. That way when it gets to the recycling facility, all the paper is still together. They can easily sort that. So that's a good one for paper. And so some of the acceptable paper products, so pretty much, like I mentioned, brown paper sacks, clean pizza boxes, cereal boxes, cracker boxes, cookie boxes, toilet paper and tissue, the center roll thing of that, magazines, newspapers, and paper egg cartons. The things they don't want is anything that's have food product in it, because it usually, if it's cardboard, it's going to have a waxy layer on it to keep the item from leaking out, or it's going to be soiled, and so they don't want that. They also don't want any like personal hygiene things, so no tissues, no toilet paper, paper towels, those kinds of things. And then last in the big four is metals. So the two types of metals that are typically used in the home are aluminum and tin cans or steel cans. So aluminum comes from bauxite ore. and 10 comes from iron and cassiterite. So both of those have to be mined. Very intensive process to get that ore. The great thing is metal can also be recycled over and over and over again. There's no lifespan on how many times you can recycle it. Our cars and our airplanes are made of aluminum these days. We want all this stuff to go back in the system. The aluminum beverage people, the people that do aluminum, they have gotten so good at the recycling, and we all know, like, when we were kids, we used to do, like, collect cans and take them for, money and stuff. But they've gotten so good at recycling that they can take that can from the time it hits the recycle bin to the time it's back on the shelf with new product is 60 days. If you think about how long it takes for all of those things to happen, they gotta sort it out, they gotta send it somewhere where they're gonna melt it down, make new aluminum sheets, punch those cans out, send them to the bottler to fill them up, ship them to the store. 60 days, that's impressive, right? So metals are continuously a great item to recycle. So they want any of your containers that, like, food comes in, so soup cans, chili, tuna, cat food.
Cat food is usually plastic coated.
Oh, that's true. It depends on the brand. But aluminum cans from soda, energy drinks, pie pans. I know that's sometimes questionable, and aluminum foil. That kind of depends on the program sometimes. The things they don't want is like scrap metal, electronics, your old pots and pans, the big stuff, and no batteries. We will talk about batteries in a minute. All right. So what do these get turned into? So glass gets turned into more bottles, jars, and they often put it in fiberglass, which makes sense, right? Plastic, you guys have probably seen all of the items that are made from plastic these days. Carpet usually is made from plastic. A lot of that, they call it like polywood, where it's a combination between wood and plastic for outdoor furniture. Of course, it can go back into new containers and things. What else is on there? Yeah, sleeping bags and backpacks and shirts, all of the clothing that, like the polyester stuff that has plastic in it. Paper. So a lot of times recycled paper can go into making like new paper towels and tissue products. In fact, we have a Georgia Pacific, right, plant here in Oklahoma that makes some of that stuff using some recycled content. Cardboard can be new boxes, and then the magazines can get used back for more of the colored stuff. They put it on the paper backing of shingles, all kinds of cool things that they can do with the recycled products. Aluminum cans, again, they often go back to aluminum cans, or they can go into aluminum for all of those different things that we talked about, cars and airplanes and other transportation. Bikes, they can go to appliances. So things are actually being made with these items that we are recycling. So Callie also wanted me to talk about a few of what I call beyond the bin items. So there's lots of things that we can recycle, but we don't want to put them in our curbside bin. They're not accepted there, and they can cause problems in our curbside bin. So some of these beyond the bin items, so e-waste is one. So e-waste is your old cell phone, your old computer, your old printer, your old little small appliance, toaster, whatever it may be. When those have truly died, you can't replace them, or they're outdated or whatever, then you can recycle them. I know you guys are having an e-waste collection
So Friday the 26th, we'll be taking
Put those in front of me so I can talk about it. And lots of other communities do them either a couple times a year. If you're lucky and you live in Tulsa area like Ellen does, there's a great e-waste recycler up there that takes things daily. So e-waste is a big one. Batteries are another. So batteries are kind of causing a huge problem for both trash and recycling industries. Because when those batteries, especially the lithium batteries that are notorious for catching on fire, remember the hoverboards that caught fire, and there have been airplanes where batteries have been in luggage, the checked luggage, and they've started fires. We also had a really big fire at the Tulsa Mr. Murph, Tulsa Recycle and Transfer plant that shut them down for 9 months or something while they had to rebuild. So batteries are a huge deal. And so these batteries you can't just put out with like a normal fire extinguisher. That doesn't work on these. So they get out of control really quickly. So especially those reusable, rechargeable lithium ion batteries, those are the ones you definitely want to keep out. But other batteries, you guys have a bin right out here for batteries, so it's a great source to get rid of them, even if and they can bring them from home, right? Yeah. Medication's another one. So at DQ, we definitely don't want you flushing your leftover medication down the toilets. That used to be what everybody would do, and please don't do that as it overruns the wastewater treatment center. But every county sheriff's department has a bin in the front that kind of looks like a mailbox, and you can put your unwanted medication in there. The idea is to really get rid of opioids and the dangerous stuff, but they'll take anything. And ultimately, it all goes up to Tulsa to the Covanta facility, which burns it, so it's getting out of the stream.
I think they're doing some kind of drive right now. I heard on the radio
Oh, okay.
that they're like trying to get people to.
Great. Yeah, a lot of communities have kind of jumped on that one, which is great. So that's perfect. Light bulbs are another one, especially the compact fluorescents. I call them the curly Q, look like a pig's tail. So those compact fluorescents and all fluorescents, these are probably LEDs, but like the long skinny tube lights that we see in industrial locations. Fluorescent light bulbs have mercury in them. And if the bulb breaks, that mercury is released into the environment. And you guys remember like mercury poisoning and things like that. Mercury and humans don't mix well together. So those compact fluorescent bulbs, although they're being kind of phased out, LEDs are really the ones that most everybody has anymore. But you can recycle those if you have one burn out at Home Depot, Lowe's. They usually have a little box like what's pictured here on the slide, where you can pack it safely so that it won't get damaged, and then they transport it and remove that mercury so that it stays out of the environment. Ink cartridges are another one, so lots of printers. I know my home printer seems to go through these a lot. I don't know about but even the commercial printers at work go through the toner cartridges a lot. So the great thing is, I know you guys recycle them here, but you also can take them to like Staples, Office Depot, those kinds of places. And if you have an account with them, they actually will give you like a credit on your account when you recycle those, so pretty cool. You can also get them refilled for really cheap, a lot cheaper than buying anyone from HP or Epson or whoever. Tires are another big one. Most people, when they get new tires, the tire shop just keeps the old tires, so you actually pay to have it recycled every time you purchase that tire. But if you happen to see a tire dump or you have old tires from something that you need to get rid of, oftentimes the communities, at least once a year, will have tire recycling events. So it's a great way. You guys are doing that as well on the big recycling event on April 26th. So if you have some laying around that you want to get rid of, they're really a big problem. Mosquitoes like to get in just that little bit of water that collects inside the tire, and so they can really cause a mosquito problem really quickly. Then we talked about plastic film. So the Walmart sacks, Target sacks, those carry-out sacks. A lot of people will reuse them around the house as like a small liner in bathroom trash cans or things like that, and reuse is great. But if you start to get, an abundance, because you keep forgetting to bring your bags into the store, I know it happens. Walmart and grocery stores and other places like that have that collection at the front of the store, so they'll take those back. It doesn't have to just be Walmart, they'll take anybody's bags. You can also put, like if you have those air pillows from shipping, you can just take the air out of those, that can go in there. A lot of times like wrapping film can also go in there. So they make sure all of that goes to the right place. And then companies like TerraCycle have another opportunity to recycle all kinds of oddball things. A lot of times TerraCycle is getting the company that manufactures that item to agree to take it back or recycle it. So they have all kinds of campaigns. Usually, like I said, it's by product. So like I know Black & Decker has ones that you can recycle Black & Decker items or yogurt pouches or whatever it may be. So TerraCycle, if you have some product you love and you're just hoping that there's a way that you can recycle it, you might check them. All right, and then the last thing is household hazardous waste. So this is the stuff that we just want to keep out of the landfills because it's, it has the skull and crossbones or the danger or the beware. So EPA considers household hazardous waste the stuff that can catch fire or react or explode under certain conditions. Those are the things we don't want to be set on fire at the landfill, right? So paints, cleaners, batteries, oil, gasoline, all that kind of stuff. And I know you guys also do a household hazardous waste collection. Is that also happening on the 26th? No. I think it might be in the fall that it happens in Ada. So, but this is not stuff that we have a ton of laying around all the time. So if you gather it up like once a year, then it keeps it out of the landfill. So that's great. So I'm gonna leave you guys with this, and I won't read it for you. I'll let you read it. I think it says a lot, right? That we've just become such a convenient society that just washing a dish is too much effort for us sometimes. So that was my presentation. So does anybody have any questions? Well, thanks again. I appreciate y'all coming. Listen.
Thank you so much.